and Easter, Passover, are occurring at the same time. An earthquake, an eclipse. This is big doings tonight. So that's our theme tonight. Another facet of who we are as children of Abraham. People called to be renewed. And we are in the 3 great seasons that we're in. So let me turn the microphone over to our wonderful moderator, Pastor Jean Dougherty, and we'll begin.
Thank you, Dick. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Jean Dougherty. I am from St. Andrew's Lutheran Church in Smithtown, New York. And I'd like to introduce our panel of women. This is Judith May. She's a Jewish studies teacher, and she's retired from Schechter. We have Reverend Zuleyha Rivera. She is a priest in the Episcopal Diocese of Long Island, currently serving Christ Church in Belfort. And then we have Zuleyha Fikret, a lecturer in the Turkish language program at home. Thank you to all of them. So what we'd like to do first, and yes, with an eclipse and an earthquake, and interesting that these holidays are all kind of calculated by the moon. That's all very fascinating. But I'd like each of our panelists just to give a quick overview about their holiday and just to give all of us a little better understanding of how these holidays are celebrated and why. Judith.
Can you hear me? Okay, so Passover is a week-long holiday. It starts on the 14th day of the month of Nisan, which is the 14th day of the month that's after Ramadan this year. What's the name of that one? Shawwal. Thank you. No, it's okay. And this year it's on April 22nd. So the holiday has several names. It's called Zman Chilutenu, the Festival of Our Freedom, and it commemorates the exodus of the Israelite slaves from slavery to Pharaoh in Egypt, when the Holy One liberated us from slavery with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. It's also called Chag HaPesach, Passover, because God passed over the houses of the Israelite slaves and did not inflict on them the plagues that he inflicted on their Egyptian enslavers. The name Pesach also refers to the Pesach sacrifice, the Paschal lamb, which was offered in the temple in Jerusalem. That temple was destroyed in 70 CE, and animal sacrifice has not been part of Jewish observance since then. In ancient times, Passover was one of the 3 pilgrimage holidays. Here's a fun fact. Chag HaPesach, the word Chag is cognate with, is Hebrew, cognate with the Arabic word Hajj. And it's also called Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of unleavened bread. And we'll talk more about unleavened bread. She was introduced, yes, definitely. Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just to give you a very quick overview of Easter, which is the Christian holiday which celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion by the Roman Empire on the cross. And he descends to the dead for 3 days and then is resurrected, rises again on Easter, which is how we celebrate it. The celebration at Easter really depends on the denomination, the Christian denomination that you're part of. For some people, it's simply just one Easter Sunday. In my church, in the Episcopal Church, I also believe in the Roman Catholic Church, there's a season at Easter, which is actually 6 Sundays, where you celebrate the resurrection and read different scriptures describing different takes on the resurrection. I mean, of course, there's many secular aspects of Easter celebrations, like the Easter Bunny and the Easter eggs, which are all part of this coinciding with spring and with the idea of rebirth and renewal and possibility. But those are more pagan additions, what we call pagan additions, I guess, to Easter celebration. Hi everyone, this is Zuleyha. I'm going to talk about Ramadan. I'm sure most of you have heard about Ramadan before. So Ramadan is the 9th month of Islamic calendar. It's not only a month, actually. It's a time that the Quran was revealed. The Quran, the revelation, our book, was revealed at the time of Ramadan, in this month. So that's why we celebrate this month, and our celebration of Ramadan happens with fasting. So we fast for a month from sundown, sunrise to sundown, and this is the time that Quran was revealed. So we try to read the whole Quran from cover to cover while we are fasting. Imagine. So it gives us an angelic nature. You know, you abstain from eating and drinking all day long, anything worldly during the day. And we normally pray 5 times a day, but in Ramadan, there is an extra prayer which comes at night time. So it at least takes an hour. If you are doing it with a congregation, it may be longer, 1.5 hours, maybe more. So in this prayer, also most imams, they try to recite the whole Quran from cover to cover. So we have 30 days of fasting and 30 days of Ramadan, and Quran has 600 pages. So every day they recite 20 pages. So in 30 days, the whole Quran is almost, done. So people generally do their own congregational recitation of the Quran, and they also attend mosques for the night prayer, which is called Tarawih, is a night prayer. So during this night prayer, also the Quran is again recited from the beginning to the end. So the whole idea of Ramadan is to be able to make a progress of a lifetime. We have a huge goal in front of us, and there is one night in Ramadan that we search throughout the whole month, especially in the last 10 days, and especially in the odd number nights. So 21st night, 23rd, 25th, 27th, and 29th, maybe the night of power. So if we catch that night of power, we can, with the worship that we did or we do that day, you can get a lifetime of worship as it is. So it's like it is said in the Quran that it is better than 1,000 months. So when you calculate that, it makes 83 years. So it's a lifetime. So we try to, from the beginning of the Ramadan, by fasting all day, spending our time with the Quran, recitation of the Quran, inviting people over in the, dinner time, and, trying to help in the community as much as we can to help the needy. We try to feed the needy as much as we can during Ramadan. And we do charity, almsgiving in Ramadan. So it's a month of blessings. So we try to make the whole, instead of the 11 months, we try to make it all in one month. But this is, some people see it that way, but in another way, it is a month that you live your whole month in a very disciplined way, because our sleeping schedule changes. We need to wake up in the middle of the night around 4:30 to have a breakfast, so we can remain fasting throughout all day until 7:30 right now in the evening. So because of that, our sleep schedule changes. So it's a month of striving to do our best. So that is in a way our own jihad, striving with our own ego, our own nafs, so we can, beat ourselves, our ego, our laziness, and, live a disciplined life in such a way that, it will help us to remain in this pace for the next, 11 months. So it's a ramp, we intensify our efforts, and hopefully, it will take us throughout the whole year with that pace until we come to the Ramadan again next year, which Ramadan comes 10 days earlier every year. So next year it will be 10 days earlier, and by this way, because it's a lunar calendar, in 34 years, the whole year is seen in Ramadan. So you spend a month, and every year it comes 10 days earlier. In 34 years, one actually fasts in all seasons, at all times.
I think that's gonna use this mic. I think it's a beautiful thing that all three of these traditions use a lunar calendar to calculate when their holiday tradition will happen. So let me ask each of you, our theme is the season of renewal. So could we hear from each of you on how your faith tradition for this holiday is connected to the idea of renewal?
Okay, the theme of renewal is central to Passover in two different ways, reflected in two of the names that I told you before. One is Man Cherutenu, the festival of our freedom, and the other is Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of unleavened bread. And that second one I want to talk about first because it's the less well-known one and the more strange. So Chag HaMatzot, I got some visual aids here. Matzah. Here's matzah. Oh, that's crap. All right, matzah. It's it's made of flour and water, nothing else, no salt. It's a nice cracker, but how's that cracker a whole holiday? What's with this? So matzah is not only composed of only those two ingredients, but it is also baked very quickly. By the way, I'll know that's the smell. That's the smell. I got one. It's baked in under 18 minutes from start to finish, from the moment that the water hits the flour to the moment that it comes out of the oven entirely baked, and not be more than 18 minutes, so that it does not have time for the dough to ferment and rise. Now, matzah is mentioned in the Torah. In Exodus, we read, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, and throughout the 7 days, unleavened bread shall be eaten. No leavened bread shall be found with you, and no leaven shall be found in all your territory. So, no leaven shall be found in all your territory is the biblical basis of cleaning for Passover. Now, I'm going to describe what my family does. Other Jews might do this differently, more strictly, more leniently. So cool. The story came down in my family from my great-grandmother. So my great-grandmother was born in 1800. So this story takes place around, say, 1900. And I heard it directly from my grandmother. The day after Purim, that is the 14th day of the month of Adar, which is a month before, she would go up to the attic with her three daughters, and she was 14 days. Century before us. And they start in the attics and start turning things out, laying things down the bedroom floor, down to the living room floor. And by the time they got to the week before Passover, they'd be in the kitchen, where in the basement. So if that is not an intimidating legacy, personally, I start about 2 months in advance, but I start with plans. Get out my old computer file and computer file going back to that. 2008. Before that, I had paper files, don't ask me where they are. I started setting things up. This is a major operation. No leaven shall be found in your territory means getting all the crumbs out of the house and the car. Then packing away all the non-Passover dishes and foods and starting over, fresh. Now, cleaning doesn't sound like a spiritual activity, but I'd like to convince you that it is. On the simplest level, it feels good to get rid of stuff. So that Marie Kondo thing that we all did during COVID, right? Get rid of stuff you don't need, like recycle the bottles, vacuum the seats out of the car, start fresh. And that, all just on the very simplest level of cleansing. But Passover cleaning is not simply spring cleaning. Passover cleaning is getting rid of chametz. Now, chametz is the opposite of matzah. Chametz is leaven. It's the stuff we're supposed to get rid of. The word chametz is related to the word chamutz, which means sour. Sour as in sourdough. Oh, another COVID reference, right? Anybody bake sourdough? Yeah. So before the days of powdered yeast, that's how all bread was made, right? You would save a little dough from a baking and leave it on your countertop in a closed container, and it would bubble and bubble along, getting yeastier and sourer. Actually, wait. Visual aid number 2. This is sour. I'm going to pass that around. Feel free to finger in it. Smell it. It's stinky and bubbly. Thank you. I'm not going to use this, so you can mess around with it anyway. This was created only for this occasion. So it'll bubble along, get yeastier and sourer all the time. The Lutheran Hasidim teach that chametz is like sin. It sticks, it grows, it puffs up, it makes things more than they really are. Matzah, on the other hand, what you see, what you get. So on Passover, we start fresh as a matzah person. And what you see is what you get, not puffed up. Not if you get rid of that stuff and just get it out of your life, draw a line under it, and start fresh. So, which is why, by the way, the Yiddish greeting for Passover, anybody know the Yiddish greeting? Is a sweet Passover, because when you get rid of the sour, what's left is sweet. So then, when the cleaning is done, we switch the kitchen. We pack away the non-Passover dishes, and out come the Passover dishes. In my house, they live in that cabinet above the fridge. I don't know what anybody else uses that cabinet above the fridge. There's also a whole bank of stuff. I have a motley collection of hand-me-downs from my mother-in-law, from my mother, from my husband's grandparents, from his aunt and uncle, their silver, my mother's big soup pot, and things that I might not have chosen for myself, to tell you the truth, but when they come out and I see them on my holiday table, it's like having these former generations come back and so it's a holiday for seeing this passing something on from generation to generation, so it's important to have their come through this. So
So how is the theme of renewal central to the celebration of Easter? Well, the Apostle Paul lived in the first century, and he was incredibly important, what we would consider the first real missionary of Christianity to the non-Jews, to the Gentiles. And he had founded all these little churches all around Asia and all through Greece and other locations. But one of them was in Corinth, and he would write these letters to these churches, and basically, they would have all sorts of problems, congregational problems that we still have today. But he would write them these letters, and in one of these letters, he talks just about practical things, but also theological things. And in one of the letters, it was his second letter to the Corinthians, he writes, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, and behold, the new has come." So when we celebrate Easter, we are celebrating Jesus raised from the dead, resurrected. And in the risen Christ, this perfect love of God comes together with all of material creation, all of God's creation. The epitome of human suffering that Jesus experienced on the cross is defeated, and something new is created. The resurrection is a renewal of God's original creation. Everything is set right at this event through the very body of Jesus Christ. So Jesus is this new creation. And for Christians, the ultimate renewal can be found through a relationship with Jesus Christ. A renewal of our bodies, healing of our bodies and our minds and our souls, as well as the renewal and healing and transformation of this world. And when we work to renew this world, when we work to heal ourselves, when we work to heal our families and our communities, when we work to heal this creation that we are living in, and when we work to be peacemakers, when we work to feed and clothe the poor, tend to the sick and the incarcerated, which is what Jesus taught us to do in the Beatitudes and in the 25th chapter Gospel of Matthew. When we do all these things, we do them with the knowledge that God has already renewed this world through Jesus Christ. This is shown to us in the resurrection, which we celebrate on Easter. And this renewal is an ongoing process. It happened in the first century, but it is continuing to happen. But Easter, which is the celebration of the resurrection, it reminds us that this new creation is possible. That the renewal of the world is possible. It is a reality. It has happened. It is happening now, and it will happen fully in God's time. The resurrection gives Christians hope, strength to meet what is to come. And that is cause for joy and celebration, which is why during our Easter practices, which they vary from culture to culture, from denomination to denomination, but it almost always involves a period of Lent, which is 6 weeks before Easter, which is the time of fasting and penitence. In the Episcopal tradition and the Roman Catholic tradition, we veil all the crosses in our church. Things get very stark. And then during Easter, it's like there's this explosion. And I know in my church, we have a tradition of, essentially it's like there's flowers everywhere. There's Easter lilies, there's tulips, there's daffodils, there's special flowers on the altar. And I know growing up for me, my grandmother was German. Easter was a huge deal. So you'd have this period of darkness at Lent. My grandmother thought it was like every single food that she could possibly make was there. It's a celebration of abundance and gratitude and plenty, and a way to restore our bodies after Lent. renewal in Ramadan, I think, when you think about it, the human being has two sides that are complementary. It's our physical body and our spiritual soul, right? So in Ramadan, we actually abstain from eating and drinking. This is a form of rejuvenation of the body. First of all, by not eating and drinking, your brain gives a signal to your body that the food is not coming. So it keeps cleaning, like cleaning inside the body. So it's a process of cleansing for the body. It's a process of rejuvenation, because there is a system that is called autophagy. When we stop eating and drinking and we decide that we are gonna eat at a certain time, so the brain makes a calculation in our mind. So let's say we are gonna fast for 14 hours. It burns the toxins, the dead cells, etc., to turn it into energy for 14 hours. So every single hour, actually, we have enough energy. So you don't feel like craving. Normally, if you don't eat for a couple of hours, you feel craving. You feel like, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. But in Ramadan, it doesn't work that way, because the body keeps creating energy for the whole time. So it is cleansing the body from dead cells, unnecessary material, and also creating new cells. So this is an account from a doctor. They say that actually this was a Nobel Prize, 2016 Nobel Prize winner in medicine. They received Nobel Prize because they found this system called autophagy. So the body actually rejuvenates itself in 1 month. You get 10 years younger. This is scientific. You can look it up. So, on the one hand, while we abstain from eating and drinking, and the body, of course, does its own, processing about cleansing, at the cost of not eating and drinking, the spiritual side is growing. So you become very open to receive the revelation, because you become like an angel. You don't need to think about what you're going to eat. You can focus on the message. So there is this, spiritual growth in us. So, in the Arabic terminology, we have two terms. When somebody comes to this world, in Arabic, it is called Vicar, a human in potential. So you have the potential, it's like a seed. So, but it's the most purified version of human being. So we try to get back to that purified version of us after we go through life. So the most perfect form of human being in Arabic is called insan. Insan, literally human being, but it comes from the root that means forgetfulness. So insan is one who forgets. One who forgets. So we keep forgetting. Normally, when we live our life, not in Ramadan time, any other time, we may forget our connection with God. But in Ramadan, you rejuvenate that connection again. You regrow that connection again. Even those who are not interested in religion, Ramadan is a spirit of festival, spirit of joy, spirit of, because our bodies are, not at the front, they are in the back. So our spirits, our hearts, our spirit is in the front row. So it's a form of renewing the joy of life. So Ramadan time, believe me, after fasting for a month, we cry that Ramadan is over. Can you imagine that? You are suffering from, not eating and drinking all month, but you feel this joy that is growing with you, especially when you focus your time with the recitation of the Quran, helping other people. You feel this new form of you, renewed you, a new version of you. So, that is also, Ramadan also means that you are renewing your connection with God, because your body is becoming someone new. You're connecting with God is a new connection. And then, you are connecting with your bonding with your community by helping people. So you have this new form of closeness to God, and you show this closeness. You can't stay in your seat at home. You have to go out and help people. It's like you become this form of energy. You want to go out and help people. You can't stay at home anymore, almost. So, the Quran is reminding us that diversity is intended by God. So we strive with one another for the betterment of the world as a whole. So during Ramadan, we are expected to put more effort into learning and following the teachings of Islam by refraining from envy, from greed, from lust, and from gossip. So you cannot gossip in Ramadan because your fast is done. That doesn't, fasting means you are fasting from eating, you are fasting from, unwanted behaviors. So that is another form of renewal, because when you don't gossip about people, you can actually genuinely love them. You can connect with them. You can really, truly, honestly, sincerely connect with them and bond with them. So this is a time of reflection, renewal, reunification, and spiritual growth during the whole month. And we actually want to be, we aspire to be shaped by Ramadan. We call this term as Ramadanified. We want to be Ramadanified. We want to get a new form that we go through in Ramadan, and we want to keep that form. That is called Ramadanified. So Ramadan evolves from being a month to a lunar calendar, in the lunar calendar, but a virtue. So it becomes a virtue in the whole month. So in the Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan, Muslims are, the more they are Ramadanified, the more solidarity they will develop with their community. So that is another form of renewal. And the last form of renewal that I want to talk about is the spiritual joy, renewal of this joy, our understanding of joy. So fasting is a very unique form, special type of worship, which God says that He will reward this individually. Normally, there is always, in the Islamic tradition, there is always this good deeds. If you pray 5 times a day, you will receive good deeds, 10,000 good deeds. But for fasting, God doesn't say any form of salvation. He says, fasting is for me, and I will personally pay the person who is fasting. So any other good deed, I repay with 10 like it in Ramadan. So even though you do normal good deeds that you do in Ramadan, it's 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more. So there is, in Ramadan, in the fasting, this is a prophetic tradition. The Prophet said this. The fasting person has 2 moments of joy. One, when he breaks his fast or her fast, the moment of breaking fast, because you're starving and, that's such a joy, even if it's just a piece of bread, unleavened bread. It is the best food ever at the time of breaking fast. And the other one is when he meets his Lord and rejoices over his fasting. So, and there is also another prophetic tradition. It says, whoever does not stop speaking falsehood and acting in accordance with it, God has no need of him giving up his food and drink. So the point is not only stopping food and drink. It's actually, renewing yourself and getting a new form of you, a new version of you. So that's a total renewal. Thank you.
So have you all been kind of hearing threads of similarity through these traditions of cleaning and fasting, and even just talking about bread as a Christian, That's such a connection for me, you know, with Jesus. We have such a connection, right? So it's fascinating to hear all these threads of connection. All right, so renewal in the larger, in your own community, what is the holiday? How does the holiday renew the community, not just yourselves individually? And then I'd like you to, after you talk about community, could you talk about how that spreads out to the larger world? What does this holiday transform the larger community? So your own faith tradition community and then the larger community.
Okay, so I'm back to Zman Chayritenu, the season of our freedom, as promised. The Torah commands us no fewer than 4 times to teach our children about the Exodus from Egypt. And we are told in every generation, we are each required to see ourselves as if we personally came. Pass that story on to the next generation. So the Passover forges connections between generations. We already talked about past generations. So in order to fulfill this mitzvah of telling the story, the rabbis of the first few centuries CE created the Passover Seder, which is a rather ingenious lesson plan, which takes place on the first night of Passover in the land of Israel, and the first 2 nights of Passover in the rest of the world. The Passover Seder is loosely modeled on a Greek symposium. It involves a festive meal accompanied by readings, songs, prayers, and most memorably, symbolic foods. So my teacher, Rabbi David Hartman at the University of Jerusalem, referred to the Passover Seder as the night the Jews eat our Israel. Symbolic foods are arranged on a Seder plate. I've got another visual aid. I've got a few. This was the most important. It was the particular genius of the ancient rabbis to make abstract ideas concrete. We can talk about the bitterness of slavery, but when you take an actual piece of horseradish and put it in your mouth and chew, bitterness becomes very big. We have a variety of symbolic foods that will describe them all. Matzah appears as a bivalent symbol, actually. It appears early in the Seder as the bread of affliction, poor bread that our ancestors ate in Egypt, and it appears later. In the Seder as the bread of freedom. And our ancestors left Egypt so fast that they didn't have time for their bread to rise. So we have varieties of symbolic foods. And the Talmud tells us in the Tractate Safim that the rabbis instituted these symbolic foods in order to provoke the children to ask questions. Questions are central to the Seder night. Questions are built into the Haggadah. The telling of the story is guided by a book called Haggadah, and we got a lot of them, different editions. The Haggadah is not a single text, but rather an anthology of different texts that were, the core of it was composed by the ancient rabbis, but it's not a single text to be read through the same way each year. It's not the score of a classical concerto to be played as written. It's a jazz piece. You riff on it. You add stuff. Different people take a solo, and it comes out at different times. Every family is different. Every family has its own traditions. Some families will It will emphasize themes of social justice. Others will highlight the formation of the Jewish nation. Some will talk about their own political liberation from slavery to freedom. We used to get my father to talk about his exodus from Germany. Others will talk about spiritual liberation from the things that enslave us personally and that we need to liberate ourselves from. Seder also evolves from year to year. So our guests aren't the same every year, our children aren't the same every year, we're not the same every year, the world isn't the same every year. So every year, the Seder is renewed. So old rituals can be a source of renewal. There's a verse in the Book of Lamentations that will be familiar to our Jewish participants. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Nashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kedeh. Return us to you, O Lord, and we will return. Renew our days as of old. Renew our days as of old. The ritual can do that for us. We're always filling these old vessels with new meaning. Every year we're enslaved. Every year we're liberated. From generation to generation, each generation adding new meaning. And the themes recur, renew.
So I'd like to share with you a little bit about my own experience of Easter this year, as well as what I brought back into my faith community. A couple weeks ago, right before Easter, during Lent, I was serving as a delegate to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. And this was a commission that meets at the UN. It was about 10,000 people this year. It was, I think, the biggest they've ever had. And the Commission on the Status of Women is basically one of the principal global intergovernmental bodies that is exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. And it's been meeting since the 1970s every year. I went last year and I went again this year. And when I've gone to these, the 2 years that I've gone to these things, you hear a tremendous amount of bad news about the world and about women. I learned this year that 1 in 3 women are going to be experiencing gender-based violence globally. 1 in 10 women live in severe poverty. And that the current rate of development, of global development of our cultural, political, social systems, it's going to take another 300 years for women to achieve gender equality in the past. It's a long time. It's 12 generations for take. And while this is happening, while we're waiting for those 300 years to happen, young girls are still given away child marriage, treated as property. As the climate changes, women and girls are disproportionately affected by climate change, their role, a prominent role in agriculture and food preparation, and we are backsliding. The gains that we've made in gender equality in the past several years are going away around the world. So it's a lot of bad news, and it's very depressing and it's appalling. And I know that when I was at the climate commission, there's a lot of feelings of hopelessness among the delegates and frustration, as you can imagine, because what can I do? And for me, as a priest, I think, where is God in all of this? Where is that resurrection renewal that we are promised? Where is the healing and renewal of the word Jesus Christ heard about so often? So how do we find that? How do we see it? My presiding bishop, Michael Curry, the way that he talks about it is that we should look for what is loving, what is life-giving, what is liberating the world, and that when we see these things, we are looking at body of Christ. We're looking at God and God in this world. You know, when we see things being repaired, when we see things, see the peacemakers at work, all the member states, people of the UN who are trying to hash out some agreement among themselves to make this world a more just place. You know, when we find these things and when we develop the eyes to see them, we're looking at what the Christians would call the body of Christ. You know, these people who are incarnated in God's love. Christ loves for us right here, right now. So I think for me, when I was at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, I think I did see that body of Christ. I did have this experience of seeing the resurrection of the world in some ways. And I'm going to talk about what? Okay. But there were lots of ways that I was seeing that. But I do think that we all need to develop those minds from through whatever tradition that we have of seeing the hope in the world and seeing where things are, where they're working and repairing them. So, all right. Thank you, Michael. I totally share your sentiments about the notification that started 2 years ago. That was an amazing experience because you see, you know, so many people coming from all over the world and everybody has a problem. Everybody talks about their whole problem, their biggest problem in the world. And you feel like so overwhelmed. I remember asking after that meeting, you know, how are we going to fix this world? You know, it's so broken. So, you know, the immigrants all around the world. And I asked this question to my master, you know, and he told me personally, like, you know, when he said, when 50 years ago, when we started in Turkey, we were just a drop in the ocean. But see now, you know, people are all over the world, everybody is helping, everybody is contributing. Now, you know, you see in 50 years the change, you know, we were only a few people and now, you know, every single drop becomes an ocean. So, you know, he gave me a lot of hope. So I think we need that hope. So in Ramadan, the community aspect is very clear actually. But I want to start talking about the aspect of individual, the human carnal soul. So there is this lordship in all of us. We just want to be treated as lords, you know, right? Everybody, every human being, you want to be treated the best way possible. So sometimes this lordship goes beyond our own, you know, humble world, but, you know, in the presence of God, you know, the carnal soul, when it's not trained, it may act in the presence of God as if it is the Lord, not the Lord, you know, not the worshiper in the presence of God. So there is this tradition that is, and I want to share with you. So it says, Almighty God said to the instinctual soul, to the carnal soul, what am I, and what are you? So the next, the soul says, I am myself and you are yourself. Like they have no connection. You know, it expresses its own lordship almost. I am myself and you are yourself. So he punished it and cast it into hell, then asked it again. Again, it replied, I'm myself and you are yourself. So that part of us, that, you know, carnal soul or nefs that we call, however he punished it, it did not give up its egoism. Finally, he punished it with hunger and then asked, who am I and who are you? And the soul replied, you are my compassionate sustainer and I am your impotent slave. So, you know, there is this very interesting dynamic in fasting that it tells you, it makes you feel humble, it makes you feel, you know, just one person among the crowd. So, you know, through fasting, especially wealthy people, who normally don't get the opportunity to feel what really means to be hungry and not able to buy the food that they need to survive. We take it for granted sometimes. Hence, in Ramadan, the rich need to be reminded of the emotions associated with hunger to foster health and charity. So it creates an empathy in us. And fasting achieves this purpose as it extends a welcoming bridge from rich to the poor. And this builds up a renewed relationship between the rich and poor, leading to social justice and harmony. And in Ramadan, another aspect of Ramadan in terms of community is that we get together to break our fast almost every night. You can imagine this as a Thanksgiving dinner every night for the whole month. You are either invited to somebody's house or you prepare the feast and invite people over your home house. So we invite each other to join in the celebration of breaking fast, and rich Muslims organize dinners for the poor. And friends and family, they race to host each other or to host loved ones, and improving social cohesion and the interpersonal skills of people involved. So, another aspect of Ramadan which looks towards the community is the aspect of almsgiving. So Muslims in general, they are supposed to give tenth of what they have to the poor, 1/10 of what you earn every year. So people generally wait for the time of Ramadan to do that charity and almsgiving. And so in Ramadan, the almsgiving aspect is, we do this every Ramadan, and so in the Quran, that it describes giving, Quran describes it as receiving. Even though it seems like you are giving, you are actually receiving. Why? Because whatever you have been given is not yours. You are not the owner of it. By fasting, you have an experience of realizing that, I don't own anything. Because even the food in front of me or the water in front of me, I cannot extend my hand and use it. It's not mine. It's a blessing until the time of breaking fast. You can't touch it. You can't use it. It's not yours. You need to be given a permission to benefit from it, to use it. So you realize that, the wealth or the, income or the, blessings that you have been given is not yours. It's continuously being given to you, and Quran describes this as, give from what you have been given. So you're reminded that this is not mine. I need to use it according to the instructions of the giver. And the giver tells you that 1/10 of what you earn, you need to give it to other people. And we do that in Ramadan. And we also believe that there is a share of unfortunate people in our income. So by giving the almsgiving, you actually cleanse and purify your own income. So sometimes people, when they have, unfortunate situations, they automatically question, did I give my almsgiving this year? If not, that may be a cause because you didn't cleanse your income. You didn't give its share, other people's share in it. So, that's another aspect. I think for now,
There are a lot of renewal by emptying and filling. With all three traditions, especially Lenten, emptying and then being refilled. But emptying and cleaning and using tradition to renew. And a lot of emptying and filling. So now, just quickly before we have to move on. I'd like us to move on to our groups in just a minute. Anything else you'd like to say in regards to your community being renewed by this specific holiday? Okay, we're good. All right, so what we'd like to do right now is I'd like you to turn to everyone at your table. And if you don't know one another, I'd like you to introduce yourselves. And I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to share how your holiday renews yourself personally, or renews your family, or your faith community. All right, so you're going to have a couple of minutes. So introduce yourselves and share one story.
And we met in my
Where's the camera? Hello. I recognize you. You're welcome. Oh my God. I remember back when you were on the line. Where the voice
My life is very good.
Where are we supposed to go? Spring.
Sometimes your response, but all goal Easter is always think about
Okay, can I call everybody back to attention a little bit? Because we have to be very timely before we break the fast. So, is there anybody that would like to share a story that you've been talking about, even just for a few moments, about renewal in your tradition? Everybody put your hands up real quick. Who wants to share a story? Somebody. Okay. Thank you. I hope you get to know each other. You can continue these conversations after we're meeting. Yes, introduce yourself and tell us.
Okay, my name is Carmen. I'm currently a seminarian. We're gathering of light. Here with us. And for her, we're invited to participate in the year. We're very honored. And thank you to all the panelists. There's a lot of information. I love information. I seek knowledge. And the more I learn, the more I realize how we're all connected. You know, we grow up in our own particular religions thinking that we are the only ones, but as we grow, I always knew that there was something more, but you know, I had to refrain myself from sharing that. But as I grew, I became a little bit more caring, and you know, I'm so happy I'm where I am now. Wants to learn spiritual person. But we were discussing how right now the young generations, the little kids, you know, schools are allowing all faiths to be, you know, to be celebrated. You know, little kids that are brought up Catholic are learning about Ramadan. They know about Passover, and to them, they are cheering each other up. They're really understanding and learning from each other almost in a playful way, which is phenomenal. Because as they grow and they, you know, become our age, to them it's going to be like nothing. It's like, okay, he's doing Passover, he's doing Ramadan, and they're all going to know about it, and they're going to accept each other. You know, no more intolerance. Intolerance should be. That's what we're hoping that will happen someday.
I'm here because of my wife. And what she has, we've been coming to England for a few years. What she has taught me, renewing her, is that especially we're from there's not enough difference between the two religions. We have so many of the same cultural things in my background. We were just talking about that here, about Sarah and Hagar and Abraham. Muslims share practices, we share dietary laws. We're basically the same people, pretty much. Well, we are, we're all sons of Abraham. And that's what I've gotten out of this. And my first marriage was to a Lutheran. And she didn't understand who it is. Really didn't make it. But I don't know, I'm thankful to her for teaching. Similarities are much more important. And they really aren't any different. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Any more comments? Anyone else want to talk about renewals? Father Bill?
Just telling the story about the children, you know, that's so beautiful. It's true. Let them play together and learn. If you're allowed to do it, in your school district or in your state or wherever, it's not forbidden for whatever reason. but young people, I mentioned this in my homily, like, why aren't young people interested? If people ask that question, where are the young people? And I feel that unfortunately, what the adults are doing with all of these traditions are more seen by the young as sources of division and conflict, rather than purveyors of solution, of unity, of oneness in God, which is the meaning of all of our faith. Repair the earth. But we just seem to be developing new ways to destroy it, to harm. Hippocratic, do no harm. Maybe we put that on the mirror in the bathroom. You put the shave in the morning, wash your face. Do no harm today. Try to be part of the healing. I think in terms of the young, my experience over many decades, trips to Latin America, working in Latin America, going back to the early 60s, that's 1960s, with, Peace Corps workers, with Jesuit volunteers, Maryknoll volunteers, University of Notre Dame volunteers, people, all of whom now octogenarians, like me. But the young people with the passion for bringing about healing of the earth through projects, working, with water projects and education and healing and things that make it possible for the poor to survive. So I think that's what this season is about, renewal. I think as we look at our traditions and we celebrate the rebirth, to realize that what we need to do is to take that to the next level in some way this year, maybe more than we did last. And that the young will see something and find meaning in our traditions that will help them to benefit from the depth and power.
Okay, so may all of our traditions bring us renewal. And we're going to move now on to a video that Sadri is going to